Are you truly ready for a warehouse management system delivered as software as a service, or SaaS? My guest today is Chad Kramlich. He is Chief Revenue Officer of OpenSky Group. Hello, Chad. How you doing?
How are you, Bob?
I'm good. I'd like you to define some terms for me because there's a lot of confusion around here on this issue. What is the difference between software as a service, that is SaaS, cloud, and on-premise?
So the primary difference is where the actual software resides, as well as who actually owns the software, as well as from a billing perspective or cost perspective, how it's structured. So software as a service is you're purchasing the software on a recurring basis. So you're billed quarterly, annually, that type of approach. Cloud is more of a where the hardware is located. You're actually purchasing the computing power. And then from an on-premise perspective, you are purchasing the software and placing that software onto your own servers with in-house.
Okay, so I get the on-premise part because that's the way it's been since the dawn of times, at least since the dawn of software. But again, where the program is residing between SaaS and cloud, they are both often referred to as in the cloud. Is it inaccurate to call a SaaS delivery as being in the cloud?
No, it is delivered in the cloud. It's more about the licensing of the software.
I see.
So SaaS, you're purchasing a service from a provider for the use of the software, versus cloud, you're purchasing the computing power for the software.
Okay, I think I see the distinction now. I want to talk specifically about WMS, Warehouse Management System software, which is being offered in a SaaS mode. The question is everybody in the WMS world ready for SaaS?
Right. I think we're in the middle of a transition period from a WMS perspective. So over the past probably 5 years, you've started to see a shift from traditional on-premise deployment approach to a SaaS approach. I think initially there was a reluctance to give up that control, that being able to touch and feel the servers that were actually running your execution systems, right? So that transition has really started to take hold over the past couple of years, where your ability to place that software in a SaaS or remote, your connectivity, your performance has now reached a point that more and more clients are feeling comfortable with it, not on premise.
Well, is it the case that over the years, traditionally, that WMS, warehouse management systems, were very specific facilities driven, that you had one for each building, one for each 4 walls, and the idea of putting that in the cloud just wasn't really attractive to people until they kind of got used to the notion? WMS lagged behind this other SaaS type solutions as a result?
I think so. I think a lot of it comes down to it being an execution-based system, right? Mm-hmm. At the end of the day, someone running a warehouse management system is, shipping product. That's how they're generating revenue for their organization. And if you cannot ship your product, you're not going to be able to generate revenue. So there was a tremendous reluctance to give up that control of that system.
I see. So if we're talking about trying to draw a distinction between SaaS and perpetual licensing, what are the most important factors to weigh in choosing between those two options?
I think it comes down to the organizational capabilities that you have, the resources that you have, where you want to invest where you want to invest in your organization from a staff perspective and a strategic investment. So if you're going SaaS, you're not responsible for necessarily the maintenance of the application. On premise, you have to have the resources in-house that are capable of maintaining that solution.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I'm wondering too, in warehouses today, they're getting more and more automated. We're seeing fewer and fewer humans in the four walls of the warehouse. And I'm wondering if that kind of leads to the general philosophy that a warehouse has fewer people, the better. And therefore, the tech staff that would be supporting an on-premise piece of software, maybe like, offload them as well, right?
Yeah, it's it really comes down to almost a calculation at times of the number of people that you need to maintain that piece of software, that knowledge in house.
Mhm.
And you're correct, as you start to see the automated warehouse become more and more sophisticated and common, why not just push all that knowledge outsourced?
Yeah. I'm wondering if our WMS solutions, are they still, even if they're in the cloud or even if they're delivered in a SaaS model, are they still site specific, or can you link multiple warehouses and multiple distribution systems on this under the same system in a cloud or a SaaS type environment?
Yeah, absolutely. We're to the point now where you're going to be seeing multiple warehouse, multiple building, multiple, multi-tenant type applications, or capabilities within the SaaS platforms.
Mhm. Well, give me an idea of the cost implications of performing a modification within a SaaS-based WMS.
Right. So that's probably one of the key things that I haven't referenced yet is um, the research has really started to uncover that your downtime within your WMS applications are, more often than not caused by um, customizations, modifications that the client is actually doing to the application. And I think moving that to a SaaS type platform where your in-house resources don't have the opportunity to tweak something, click something, push the wrong button and cause downtime to your execution system, as well as from just a overall modification standpoint. Once you're in that SaaS platform or SaaS environment, the reluctance to want for the software provider or SaaS provider to support those modifications or those customizations that you do to the application is
Mhm.
they're much more reluctant to take those on.
You say that the SaaS service is more reluctant to take on modifications, but
Right.
I was wondering also, I mean, is the act of modifying a software, I mean, that's something that certainly can be done remotely,
Right.
right?
Yes.
Do you get pushback sometimes initially from actual warehouse staff who feel that they don't want to lose control over the ability to make modifications on site, and you have to like demonstrate to them that it works just as well offsite?
Uh, to some degree, yes. I think there's a culture of thinking that each individual um, warehouse or operation within someone's warehouse is unique. And I think the more and more that you go between facilities, you find out that most of the time nobody's reinventing. Nobody's created anything unique these
Mhm.
days. You still see it, but it's less common.
Yeah. So how does support work within a SaaS environment?
Right. So being able to offload your maintenance of the software, from an operating system perspective, an application management perspective, you still have maintenance and warranty with the software from the provider. So if you encounter an issue, either operating system, database issue, software issue, you have a one-stop shop to pick up the phone and call that provider versus, is that an database issue, an operating system, needing to find the right person on a Friday night within
Hmm.
your organization to call and, you know, figure out who to, how to address the issue.
Yeah, yeah. I guess also it's been argued a big advantage of SaaS is that upgrades and new versions can be done remotely with almost no interruption to operations, or literally no interruption to operations. Is that right these
Uh,
days?
Yeah, I think we're heading in that direction. I don't know if we're necessarily there just yet. It's a warehouse management is a very complex and personal system in a lot of ways,
Hmm.
but reducing the number of modifications and taking a much more operational approach overall drives that capability or ability to upgrade basically in place.
Yeah. Okay. So for those who still need to be sold on the concept of WMS in a SaaS environment, what are your tips, or what's your big tip on how to be successful with SaaS WMS?
Right. I think it's a few of the things that I've touched on. It's staying standard product. Don't do modifications. Look for operational approaches. Embrace the software as it is, which gets you closer to those in place upgrades that you were just talking about.
Mm-hmm. Okay, seems pretty straightforward. At this point, Chad, I'd like to turn the conversation to a quick discussion of OpenSky itself. Tell me about the company. How long has it been around, and basically what was its market niche when it was created?
Right. So we're just entering our 15th year this coming February. We are one of the largest JDA supply chain WMS implementers. So our niche is one of we pioneered a templatized approach from a WMS implementation perspective. So we took the traditional waterfall approach and turned it into much more of an agile approach. So we're much more interactive as we go through the implementation process with our clients, as well as we are very focused on operationally approaching a project. So understanding how a client runs their operations and how those operations can be mapped to the software versus modifying or mapping the software to their operational approach.
That being the case, how are customer needs changing? What are they asking for you these days that it's different from when you were first created?
It's primarily speed to market, right? They're spending, a great deal of money for, software. The market is changing, especially today, in our current environment, much more rapidly than previously. So they're coming to us wanting and needing to implement their WMS systems in 4 to 6 month time frame versus the traditional 9+ months.
Yeah. Well, considering the demands that are being put on distributors and retailers and the like these days, it's more important than ever that one's warehouse operates at maximum efficiency. So it's interesting to hear how software as a service, or SaaS, can really help a facility to achieve that goal. Chad Kramlich of OpenSky Group, I want to thank you very much for discussing the issue with me today, as well as telling me a little bit about OpenSky itself. Thank you very much for being with me.
Thank you.